guys, I am Shinki Pyre, the name rounds with the fire, and I am here today to react to another video from Dogen, why teaching English in Japan can bankrupt you. Part of his Japan Trap series, episode 3, I believe. We've reacted to his episode 2 and 1 in that order. So now we're jumping to 3. I'm excited to see what this can bring and how this is gonna be. I'm excited just to learn why this profession that I wanted to go into at one point in time and still kind of do would bankrupt me. So I want to watch that. Yeah, so let's get into it, huh?
You don't really know someone until money is involved. The first time I heard this in high school, I laughed it off. I thought,
okay,
no, I know my friends and I know my significant other. But once I moved out, I started to see truth in this statement. Once I and the people around me had to start paying for rent and utilities and food and transportation, then we'd sometimes get into arguments that never happened when we were living with our parents. Didn't I pay for gas last time? No, I'm pretty sure I did. Really? You're gonna spend money on a PlayStation, but not us? I just can't afford it now, okay? I bring this up because financially induced stress is a very real thing. And there are a lot of people who love Japan that end up experiencing that stress for the first time in Japan. Of the thousands of people who move to Japan each year, many come straight from university via programs like JET and Interac. They experience their first real job and oftentimes therefore their first real financial responsibility and all the difficulties that come with that in Japan. That can create a perfect storm. So in today's video, the next episode of the Japan Trap miniseries, I'd like to talk about that storm. How a bright-eyed, fresh out of university otaku can sabotage their future in Japan by ignoring or staying willfully ignorant of the current state of the Japanese economy and failing to create a financial roadmap. Because one's decision to either stay in Japan or go home.
Are we talking about finances today?
Whether or not that person
okay, let's get it. Let's get it.
With their life here. And one of the variables in that equation, certainly not the most important, but perhaps the easiest to quantify, is finances. You don't really know someone until money is involved. Well, that's true for Japan as well. It's easy to love Japan when you're dining on Wagyu.
He's so true about that.
Springs and Hakone. It's not so easy when you're a broke English teacher struggling to pay for rice balls and trips to the local coin laundry.
Ooh. But I'm gonna feel that. I'm gonna feel this.
Is how much you can expect to make.
I'm gonna feel this.
What exactly you can buy with the salary of an entry-level English teaching job in Japan.
I'm curious though. I'm actually curious.
The JET program, the gold standard for this kind of work, pays the equivalent of approximately $27,000 a year. But after taxes, pension, and health insurance are taken out, each month you'll be left with approximately $1,850. A program like Interac, be closer to $1,500. Needless to say,
while we're hold up a second, chat. Hold on, we're gonna move this real quick. We're gonna edit live editing. Okay, there we go. But I do have to say one fucking thing. $1,850. Hold on. Okay. I mean, if you're paying rent, paying food, you got bills, you got like a full ass life, like yo, I don't know, chief. Like, I mean, it can work. You can work. I mean, definitely can work. That's 100%. Okay, well, that's insane. Why am I on this one? Get out of here. Get out of here. Why do I have 2 of these? But damn, bro. All right. I feel like they could be making more, especially teachers. Like, that's been a thing everywhere, right? I think teachers deserve more money in general. That's just how it should be. Man, okay.
To say, while you can live in Japan, especially rural Japan, on these salaries, you won't have a tremendous amount of wiggle room. One of the reasons for this is the exchange rate. As of right now, May 2025, the yen is hovering at around 145 yen to $1 US, which is a 30-year low.
Oh
Some
my
people
God,
may hear this and say, right, but the cost of living in Japan is low. So even if I'm only making
that's what everyone says.
$1,800 a month, that amount of money goes a lot further in Japan than it would in a place like the United States. And while there is truth to this statement, it's not the full story, because you won't always be buying domestic products. When I moved to Japan on the JET program in 2009, the yen was actually a little bit stronger than the dollar.
Okay.
When I bought my first iPhone halfway through my 3-year contract, it was about 50,000 yen, which was about 25% of my monthly income. The cheapest new iPhone today, the iPhone 16e, is 100,000 yen, which is almost 40%
that's
of the
like
current
$1,000
salary and 45%
almost
of that of Interac.
Or
Furthermore,
more.
there are
Or
many
less.
Japanese companies that create and price products based on world demand rather than Japanese demand, which often makes these products relatively more expensive to buy in Japan. In Japan, a PlayStation 5 costs 80,000 yen, and the average monthly income for a new university graduate in Japan is 225,000 yen. This means that a new hire in Japan would have
It's
to
like
spend
$2,000.
approximately 35% of their monthly income to buy a PlayStation 5.
Yeah.
On the other hand, a PlayStation 5 costs approximately $500 in the United States, where if you're lucky enough to get a job straight out of university, the average monthly income is approximately $5,500. So in the United States, the same Japanese
Really?
product is relatively
Well, I gotta go to
cheaper.
college,
It's
bro.
just under 10%
I mean, if you can get the
of the
job.
monthly income. Now, you could make the argument that the job
we
market in
talk
the
about
US
finances
is so
today.
bad right now, and it has been so bad
Dogen,
for
you
several
keep
years
pulling
that
this out of-
it's not a fair comparison.
Dogen, you keep
But
pulling
on a
everywhere right
minimum
now.
wage job in the United States, not a job
Dogen.
aimed at new university graduates.
You're learning,
a
making me
PlayStation 5 is about 40%
learn here.
of monthly income.
Yeah.
Real close to that
Math.
35% that we saw in Japan. This is what you need to be
Minimum
aware of,
wage
that
salary?
buying
Oh,
some
yeah,
Japanese
1,000.
products like
Yeah,
a
that's about
PlayStation
right.
5 on a
About right.
Jet or Interact salary is much more
Yeah.
like buying them on a minimum wage salary as opposed to an
That's me.
entry-level new graduate salary in the United States. Now, it's true that other everyday
Bit more than
expenses in
that, but yeah, that's
Japan,
me.
such as eggs, are relatively cheaper, so it evens out a little bit.
Not a salary,
But
though. I'm paid
once
hourly,
again,
but
this isn't the full story. While Japanese wages largely haven't changed for the past 30 years, the
That's
price
everywhere,
of
bro.
Japanese rice, perhaps
Fucking
the
crazy.
single most consumed product in all of Japan, doubled over just the past year. There are many reasons for this, but one of the issues that's
The
affecting
foreigners.
all aspects of the Japanese economy is the declining population. In Japan, there aren't enough people
Oh,
to
never
fill
mind,
the
never
job
mind.
vacancies.
It's
There are
it's
less
not us.
farmers to grow Japanese
us,
rice.
not us.
It's more expensive to move in Japan than it used to be because there are less young, strong people that can carry beds and refrigerators. It's more expensive to build a house here than it used to be because there are fewer cars.
You know, when you like think about it that way, like there actually are gonna start having problems soon. Like actually, like, cause like yeah, people are gonna grow old, and there's not gonna be enough people being born to replace them, and soon enough, I think it's already happening, as he's saying here. Labor is gonna go up. And soon demand is going to go up, and then people may or may not take those positions. And that is saying something. I think Japan needs to do something. They got to give some incentives for like people to start making babies, because like, I mean, like they need some shit. They need some stuff. And I'm not saying bring foreigners in or give like the marriage visa or whatever, or like the sex visa. I think I've seen that online somewhere. I'm not sure if that's actually a thing, but like I've seen that online, and I just don't think that's the way, bro. So like it's not. So I just don't think it's the way. You gotta give your populace some benefit, like more than you're giving now, to have children, because well, it's clearly no one's having them. So Japan, you need to. This is your biggest problem, I think, and you got to figure that out. It's not as foreigners that are an issue. No. It's you're not making enough kids to replace the elderly, and that's going to bite your ass in a few years. And I'm hoping it doesn't, because I love Japan. Can you?
Carpenters. These prices probably look like a steal in dollars, but that's irrelevant when you're getting paid in Japanese yen, which you will be on programs like Jet and Interac. And these costs are only being exacerbated by overseas tourism. 10, 15 years ago, when the yen was stronger, Japanese people used to regularly take trips to the United States, places like Hawaii and LA and New York. But
everyone loves to go there.
The exchange rate and the runaway inflation in the United States has made this prohibitively expensive. Moreover, it's made it much more enticing for foreigners to visit Japan, where a dollar or a euro now goes a long way. This has changed the landscape. Many of the medium to high-end restaurants in places like Tokyo, Osaka, etc., that used to be full of Japanese salarymen at noon are now filled with almost exclusively foreign tourists. There's enough demand from foreign tourists for restaurants to raise their prices. But if they do this, it often means that the locals, Japanese people, and foreigners living in Japan and getting paid in yen can no longer afford to go. And this goes well.
I never thought about this. I should have kept my mouth shut back there, because like when you think about it, right? Yeah, because when foreigners are coming in and they're the only people who can afford to go to these fancy restaurants or high-end restaurants, or on the high-end side of restaurants, and when the locals don't come in, these restaurants got to keep running. So when the foreigners come in, they're gonna up them prices, and often when prices are raised, they stay up there, and that further alienates Japanese nationals. So like that will cause a ripple effect a lot and just make everything else even more expensive, and it won't be good for the common man, the common citizen, right? And just even for foreigners, because price increase for everybody goes to Japan. Like, price increases anywhere affect everybody equally, and it's not fun, right? We want things to be lower on the price spectrum while we're maintaining quality. But when you think about it like that, I understand why they gotta do this, because when most of your clientele is foreigners who do leave, like, you're not gonna have any regulars. And besides, it'd be a couple of you who are well off, right? But you're not gonna have as many as you would have if if you had people like no foreigners coming in, because sometimes it sucks to say that our presence as foreigners is not welcome, and sometimes they might not eat there if we're there. That's a fact. I've seen people have many stories like that happen where there's a foreigner there and it makes them, or like a foreigner wants to go eat and they can't eat because they make Japanese people uncomfortable. Just like, not everybody, by the way, but that does happen, and that is a thing. And the more foreigners there are could alienate the Japanese people, and therefore raising prices. I get what he's saying.
Beyond restaurants. If you want to take a trip to Tokyo during your first year here,
Yeah.
be prepared to pay a lot for a hotel, because more and more the hotels are
And
oriented
that,
towards
yeah, I
foreign
didn't even
tourists.
touch on that.
Along those lines, don't expect to be able to take a trip back home during your time on jet or Interac unless you can have everything except your plane ticket paid for. A simple 10-day trip back home for Christmas, that could easily, between the combination of the flight back home, food back home, tips on that food, gas to drive around town and see your friends,
man,
that could
bro.
easily wipe out everything
Money.
you've saved during your first 4 or 5 months in Japan. And none of this includes what I think is the
Money.
most dangerous element of all, which is student debt. A lot of new graduates, primarily those from the United States, end up leaving university with tens of thousands of dollars
that's
in
the
student
biggest
debt.
scam
To be
ever.
clear, this isn't because they weren't being careful. The price of higher education in the United States has exploded over the past few decades, and you can't come to Japan on jet or Interac without a college degree. So it's not fair to blame the young people.
He's gonna say
for
what
just
I'm
trying
gonna
to
say,
follow
so
the
I'm gonna let
rules
him
that
do
the
it,
older
but-
generations created. That being
Thanks.
said, if you are one of those young
Yeah.
people, you need to be aware
know what
that
he's gonna
trying to
say,
pay
'cause
off
it's
US
leading up
debt
to
in
it, but-
Japanese yen will not be easy. The moment you step foot in Japan, start getting paid in Japanese yen, your debt essentially goes up by 50%.
I was gonna say
That's
that.
just the exchange rate. It doesn't take into account international transfer fees, which can also be substantial. Now, I'm not trying to fearmonger.
Like,
I'm
you're
not
just,
saying any
like,
of this because
doubling
I don't
your
want you
debt.
to come to Japan. In fact, I want the opposite. Japan would benefit from more people that love the country, deeply respect the culture, and are happy to
Yeah.
work here across professions. I'm saying it again because financially induced stress is a very real thing. And given the state of the Japanese economy, if you're not mindful of your finances from the moment you arrive, you could easily get blindsided by that stress. And that stress, it could come at the worst time when you're already dealing with an equally difficult situation caused by cultural misunderstandings or homesickness or something entirely out of your control, like a car accident. It could come at the end of your Japan honeymoon phase. You might wake up one day
True.
and realize that Japan does have problems. Moving here didn't get rid of yours. And despite the fact that you've been working diligently for a year and a half and not living extravagantly, you've got little to nothing to show for it.
Everything's tying together.
That is the perfect storm. That's the difference between I love it here, I can't wait to find more work after jet, and I'm going home. So now I'd like to try and move on to some practical advice, because if you are mindful of your money and take a little bit of time early on to draw up a simple plan, then you can have a wonderful, rewarding life in Japan that will springboard you into your next endeavor here. Disclaimer, everything that I'm about to say is not financial advice.
We're getting into the financial bits, boys. We're getting into the finances. We're getting into the big brains talk. I mean, there's already some of it in the video, but yeah, this is insane. Honestly, like, yeah, money is a huge factor, and I feel like a lot of us people who plan it, I mean, not everybody, obviously, there's smart people, but like, when I think about it, right, when I was like gonna go and I make some money, I mean, I had enough. I had a lot of money, but like, I had enough, but like, again, it's all like, you have money when you're going, but like, you never think like 6 months down the line or 8 months. Like, you always plan for like the first 3 to 4 months, 5 months even. But then after that, usually it's kind of like, well, I'll find a job. But then there's Japan taxes, there's how the economy's doing, just all these money talks, economics, financial worries. Like, there's so many things you gotta think about when you're coming over to another country, or in this case, Japan. And a lot of times, if you're going on a holiday visa, or you got a work visa and you're like going with jet or Interact, like he was talking about, like all of that, you have so much you got to think about. And for people who have student debt, that also, well, like you said earlier, it'll effectively double your debt. And which is like why I would advise, paying your debt off before rushing off to Japan, even though like that might be hard. I think you pay it off first, even though that might take years. I think you do, unless you want to like try to juggle both. I mean, like it's possible, but regardless. Anyways, I'm not gonna talk or yap too much. I would try not to because this video is 22 minutes.
Nice.
Yeah,
right?
for me.
So points 1 and 2 are quite basic, but there are also things that I was never explicitly taught, and probably the most important points on this list. So at the risk of alienating the financially literate, here we go. 1, the first thing you need to do when you start working, whether that's in Japan, the United States, wherever it might be, is save up a 3 to 6 month emergency expenses fund.
Yeah.
This isn't, you need to save up your monthly income 3 to 6 times over, but just 3 to 6 times what you spend each month on the essentials. The combination of rent, food, utilities, transportation, phone bill, etc. It's essential to do this so that if something unexpected happens, which it will, you won't have to go into debt. 2, you just got paid. What's the first thing that you do? Buy a Switch game, get some tonkotsu ramen. Unfortunately, no. The first thing that you do each month is transfer 15% of that money into a savings account that you never get to touch.
Yeah.
You need to allocate some of the money that you make each month to savings, because if you don't, you'll never end up saving anything. You'll browse Amazon on your phone or walk through YouTube like I did and think to yourself,
I scroll Amazon and
because you will be able to. But then you'll wake up 6 months or a year down the road and realize that you've never had more than $1,000 to your name. Naturally, if you have student debt or any other kind of debt, you also need to allocate some of your money each month to paying that off. Okay, now that we have the macro out of the way, I like to talk about the micro. Some tips that are more specific to Jet Program and Interac. 1, don't make the mistake of thinking your brand new life in Japan requires brand new Japanese things. Try and get as much stuff as possible. Your rice cooker, your washing machine, your kitchen table.
Secondhand.
From either your predecessor or a recycle shop. If you're about to start teaching English in Japan,
store,
it's likely you're replacing someone else who's just reached the end of their contract.
Whatever they're called.
More often than not, that person will be happy to give you everything that you need to get started or sell it to you for next to nothing because they can't take that stuff with them. My predecessor sold me his car. I say sold, but he really gave it to me. It was a 15-year-old Mitsubishi mini car that didn't have power windows, didn't have a radio or sound system, and probably only had 50 working horsepower, but I got it for $200. You may have seen that I recently got a new car here. What did I do with my old one? I gave it to the local ALT. Again, a lot of the OGs here are happy to help.
He's helping the next generation, brother.
Advantage. Lean into it. And if you don't have a predecessor, just go to a recycle shop. There's no need to spend 5% of your monthly income on a new microwave when you can get one and half the other things that you need for a fraction of that from the local recycle shop, which every Japanese city has. And go beyond kitchenware and appliances. Get some of your clothes from a local used clothing store. Japan has a ton of these, and because Japanese people are quite fashionable and very good at taking care of things, you can use them to get high quality clothes for very cheap. I used to do this all the time during study abroad. I had to buy a winter coat here. I wasn't prepared for how cold it gets here during February. I could have gone to the North Face in Harajuku and bought a brand new coat for $200, but I went to the used clothing store right next door and got something equally nice for $4.
I'm Canadian.
I still do this. This is the same shirt I've been wearing for the past 9 years on YouTube. I shoot.
It's crazy. Still has that shirt. I mean, actually, I have a shirt. Wait. Yo, I have a shirt that's at least 6 years old. You know what? Makes fucking sense. If dollars make sense.
I wash it, it works. This lens I'm shooting with right now, I bought it used on Mercari for 15% off. Get what you can.
Yo, really?
For free. And for everything else, settle
I like
for
your
used.
usefulness.
Konbini Japanese convenience stores, they're fantastic. They live up to their reputation.
That's not the right
Food
word.
is surprisingly good, and they're always way cheaper than restaurants. You can get 2 rice balls, 2 onigiri for about 300 yen, which is the equivalent of
they're
about
so
$2
cheap. Honestly, even when I was, okay. I got my lunch. I ate dinner. Like, dinner is my man's when I was in Japan. Dinner is my meal I spend on. But every other meal, besides, dinner, I had at a konbini. Like, it was legit. I was always going to a konbini. Like, it was rice balls or fucking a snack or some sort. Mainly rice balls. Or, like, even when they heat them up meals. Like, I think there was, like, a tonkatsu curry. There. They warm up for you right there, too. And it's good fucking shit. Like, low key, don't underestimate the konbini, man. Just don't. They're unlike here in Canada, in the US, I mean, I'll speak for Canada, but gas stations and like convenience stores do not have good food. So maybe the hot ready food is kind of pretty, it's aight, right? But like, regardless, like the stuff you see in like the freezer section, you genuinely to stay away from in Canada. At least I do. I don't trust that shit. But in Japan, yo, the onigiri, they heat up food, microwave food. Oh my god, bro. Take me back. I want some of that shit. And they're cheap too. Like they're fucking. You can get like a good lunch for $5, and that is something you cannot get here in Canada. I mean, I'm sure you can, but it's not going to be a big lunch at all. And here you can get 2 rice balls again for like $2 or something. You know, like, or like maybe like $4. And when I say those rice balls, they're fucking filling, bro. And then you can get like a drink. You can get like a water too. You know, if you want to get water, that's like, I think it's like 100 yen. But like regardless, like it's really fucking cheap to get a lunch here in or there in Japan at a kombini. So you abuse that.
That's reasonable. That being said, he's gonna break down my entire point entirely because you know what? Let him cook. Buy online in bulk, you can have a big bowl of oatmeal with nuts and honey and none of the preservatives for about 80 yen, or about 50 US cents. And over the course of a month, that's a difference of about 50 US dollars. On a take-home income of $1,500 a month, that's huge, especially again, if you're trying to pay off debt in the US. Takeaway point, when it comes to food and daily consumables like tissues and toilet paper, buy what you can online in bulk. This not only saves you money, but also countless trips to the supermarket.
I mean, okay,
frees up time for more productive things.
I mean, I was on tourist time. But honestly, I think even if I did live there, I never think about buying in bulk because, okay, I'll be honest. I'll be so for real, chat. All right, YouTube audience. I'll be so for real. I'm a fat ass, all right? Well, I mean, I've lost a ton of weight, but like, that's because I'm restricted and I don't buy in bulk. Buying in bulk does quite literally the opposite for me. The food's there, I'm gonna eat it no matter how much. You know, it's gonna. Unfortunately, that is just the way I operate, and sometimes you can't fix it. You know, it's gonna. I'll buy in bulk, and I'll be eating in bulk too. Okay, it's gonna be going down my gullet. So like, I have to buy on demand. Sure, it's gonna be a little more pricier. I don't know what that was about, but that is the way it be sometimes, and I'm sure this advice, listen to Dogen. If you're a person who has any modicum of self-control, then listen to Dogen.
Things such as studying Japanese, which is point 3. Consciously incorporating Japanese studies into your daily routine can actually make a big difference in your financial situation. Studying kanji or vocab or
After
grammar
this video, I'm going to go study.
An hour and a half necessarily means that you're spending less time on heading out to karaoke with the other ALTs or watching a new Hollywood movie on Amazon Prime. Little wins like this, 300 yen here, 500
you got to
yen
sacrifice,
there,
which I'm learning is a good thing.
And many English teaching programs in Japan, such as JET, often provide free
No
Japanese
sacrifice, no victory.
These aren't always the absolute highest quality resources, but that's okay because when it comes to learning Japanese or any language, the most important thing is immersion. And when you're working your very first job, it should be a given that you can't afford the best across the board. And this leads me to point 4, which is choose your battles. Maybe you're a huge gamer. Maybe you have to have a PS5. Then buy one, ideally used. Maybe you derive most of your pleasure from food. Then have that ramen. Maybe have it every week. It's okay to indulge. You just can't indulge in everything. When you make your first big purchase,
you gotta
or commit to a series of smaller regular purchases, write a note to yourself that says, no, you promised it would just be this, and then pin it to your wall. You can afford to live a little.
I can't myself control, brother.
You can only do this if you're being strategic, if you're being selective about the other aspects of your lifestyle. Point 5 is international transfers. Before I came to Japan on the JET program, I went to a Bank of America in Seattle and converted my US dollar savings into Japanese yen. And then once I came here and set up my new bank account, I had my parents go to that same Bank of America and send it to me via a wire transfer. All in, the process took about 3 hours, and between the conversion, the outgoing transfer fee, the incoming transfer fee, it cost about $100. And during my time on JET, I and the other foreigners I knew semi-regularly sent money to and from our bank accounts back home. Sometimes this was paying off student debt. Sometimes it was trying to make a purchase that, for whatever reason, required a non-Japanese credit card. But again, going to the bank and setting up these transfers takes a lot of time and effort and ends up costing a small fortune. It's not an exaggeration to say that by the time I finished my 3 years on JET, I had probably spent close to half a month's salary just on international transfer fees. And this brings me to why.
Insane.
This is an ad plug, but try and bear with me because their service...
I'm sorry, brother. I do not sponsored by you, brother.
Probably the easiest way for a foreigner who's just got here to get a pretty website. I imagine you'll find that Wise is almost always significantly cheaper than the competition. Thank you again to Wise for sponsoring this video. 2 more points that tie into each other. First, and this is a drum I've been beating for a while, but it is
I
critical
hear Chris
that
Broad.
you build up your skill set while teaching English in Japan,
Build your
such
portfolio.
that when you reach the end of your contract, you can move into a better position. I recently finished this, Chris Broad's book, 10 Years.
I
from the
want to
Land of
read this book. I want to buy. I have the audiobook. I bought it a while ago, and I still have to listen to it. And Mr. Affable himself is the one narrating the book.
the Rising Sun. and
If
I
I
loved
get
it.
too
I thought it
Japanese
was
to that, I
fantastic.
might have
And I remember
to
thinking to myself
edit
while
stuff
reading it,
first.
this is the perfect example. Not only the various things that Chris went out of his way to do on Jet, taking part in the Japanese speech competition 2 years in a
Insane.
row and making dozens, if not hundreds of videos for his YouTube channel,
Yeah.
but the book itself.
And fucking insane.
How easy would it have been for Chris, the creator of the most popular and respected YouTube channel in Japan,
Yeah.
to just not write a book, to instead keep making videos for his incredibly successful YouTube channel? But even in that position, he pushed himself. In addition to creating
No,
those
honestly.
videos, he wrote a hysterical 300-page book. And this is the mindset that I think you need to try and be
300
in when you come to Japan. Because when you come to Japan, you will feel like you're at the top of your game, like you finally made it here. And in that moment, you might let your guard down. But your first year in
Oh.
Japan, your first 3 years in Japan, they'll be over like that. When that time comes, if you have not been actively building your skill set up on the side, you'll be in for a very rude awakening. I actually took a hit to my pay when I finished Jet and started working at a Juku, but it was the only place I could find a job because I didn't have the teaching qualifications necessary
Yeah.
to teach at a private school or at a university. On the other hand, if you do actively sharpen your sword and try and get that teaching qualification, or study for the kanji kente, or make a YouTube channel for your voice acting career, or just try and do a little bit of creative writing every single day, then you will find opportunities waiting for you at the end of your contract here. Which leads me to my final point. As you become more competent, and
Level
start
up,
saving a little bit of
baby!
money, there will be a point where it's actually better to ignore the advice I give in this video. When you first get here, you probably can't afford to buy a printer, which is fine because you can go to your local konbini and print things out there for 10 yen. Straight out the gates, when you don't have additional skills or any savings, that's your better option. But once you start making serious progress toward that teaching degree, or your voice acting, or photography, modeling, something that has the potential to generate income, and you have some savings, then it's time to reevaluate. At that point, it might be better to bite the bullet and buy a used printer because in doing so, you're also buying yourself time that you can allocate to that side endeavor. And that time might now be more valuable to you than the money that you could save if you didn't buy a printer and instead just kept going to the konbini once or twice a week to print things out for the local Eikaiwa club. This is important to remember because for most of us, the JET program, Interact, other entry-level Eikaiwa positions, these were never the end goal. They were a way for us to get our foot in the door. And for getting your foot in
Actually,
the door,
though,
they are still viable options.
like when you think about it,
Depopulation, inflation,
that is what the
over-tourism,
goal is.
These
Like
things
you
are
want
making
to
it more difficult to
get
save
in.
money on programs like JET and Interact. But if you love Japan, you can still make it happen. If you go into the situation thoughtfully, buy used, plan your compromises, build up that emergency fund, save a little bit of money each month, and plan for the future sooner than later, then not only can you avoid crippling financial stress, but you can have a rewarding life here that makes you optimistic about the future. So if you're watching this, by all means come. I probably couldn't dissuade you anyway. Just be mindful of your hand
Sorry,
and the
Dogen.
cards on the table. If you do this, you can have your cake, you can have that wagyu, and eat it too.
Yeah, bro. Good fucking video. I was like, I yapped a bit, but like I was silent. Like I let the video play a lot, but like there are big chunks where like I went on tangents. But like I think, yeah, definitely all of this is valid. Like it's a finance video disguised as a Japan video. But like I honestly, yeah, like I think it's very solid advice. You know, save money every month. You know, I think this applies to like everywhere basically. But like this is like in Japan perspective. Like, and again, building your skills. And just everything like that. I think that's just worth it, you know? And just to like, honestly, everything he was talking about, everything he was saying, valid. Building your skills, saving money, and like learning when to invest into like what you're doing, right? Yeah, you know, study Japanese, like that's huge. Like there's so many things and solid advice he gives here. All generic advice, but relatively advice you should learn in like the video, brother. Subscribe to this one too if you like the video here too as well. Links are always in the description below for all the content we watch. I forgot to say that at the beginning of this video. My bad. It's the end of the day. I'm a little bit more scatterbrained at the end of the day. But regardless, it has been a nice one, and this is the end for now, I believe. Hold on, let's take a gander. What are your videos, Dogen? What are you doing here? What are you doing here? Yeah, I think this is the end for now of his Japan Trap series. We are gonna follow this. We are gonna follow this because we are watching this to the end of the Japan Trap, and I'm very interested in this series. And honestly, The Psychology of the Delusion Foreigner is still the best one. I think he's had so far. Like, honestly, there's more emotion in it, and I really like it a lot. This one's probably second place, and the first one's the last place. I'm sorry. But regardless, that is it. Go check out Dogen. So go subscribe to Dogen. He deserves it. Every subscriber counts. And maybe, you know, subscribe to me as well, because every subscriber does count. But I'll see y'all next video, whatever we react to next, or whatever I upload next, because it could also not be a reaction. It could be whatever it is. It could be a gameplay video. It could be whatever, you know, rant video. It could be whatever I want to upload. But if you want to stick around and see what that is, subscribe, like the video, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye, guys.